Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world today. My name is Paul Webb. I'm the founder of B2B Energy, and I'm also your host of Energy Speaks Back. We'd like to thank our sponsors today, B2B Energy and the Clean Energy Revolution. And if you want to know more about Clean Energy Revolution, go onto LinkedIn and type hashtag Clean Energy Revolution. Energy Speaks Back interviews energy experts from around the world. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to our summer series and episode 35 of Energy Speaks Back. Thank you to our episode sponsors, Energy Impact Software. Weekly, I present to you experts from around the world, and today we are in Orange County, California, and I'm interviewing an energy expert in smart grid. Our purpose, as always, is to provide a good understanding of energy management knowledge from around the world, which is available today for us to deliver savings that impact on our planet. My guest today is a respectable CEO and a renowned speaker who has written many white papers for the industry and is quoted frequently as a subject matter expert. So without any further ado, I give you AJ Perkins. Good afternoon, AJ, and how are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you, Paul.
Great to see you, AJ. Keep bumping into you on LinkedIn all the time, so it's really good to have a face-to-face with you through Zoom.
I agree.
So, AJ, tell us what's the temperature, by the way? And it's not good afternoon there; it's good morning, isn't it?
It is good morning, and it's a blistering 72 degrees with the sun shining and just beautiful California weather.
I'm not really jealous because I'm just looking out my window. We have got blue sky, but it's still cold in the UK. I am slightly jealous, and maybe one day I look forward to come and chill out with you in California. So it's great. Thank you for joining us today, AJ. It's good to see you. So AJ, I know some of your background and we've been talking on a regular basis. So for the benefit of our listeners today, it'd be great for you to give us your background and your side of it.
My background is actually business. I've only been in the energy space for about 5.5 years, but I'm considered a subject matter expert in microgrids. I speak at conferences. Pre-COVID, I spoke at conferences all around the United States. Post-COVID, I now speak at conferences all around the world. I mean, this virtual opportunity has created so much more scenarios for us to be able to share experiences, knowledge, and scenarios, to our friends and families all around the world. So it's been really good. I sit as a advisor to the California Energy Alliance, helping to rewrite Title 24 policy here in the state of California for 2022. My specific charge is over demand response. I've also helped other organizations to help create programs for incentives here in California. We've got our public purpose funds that has over $12 billion, and being able to help create, review, and recommend different programs on how to utilize those funds to help support the energy goals within the state has been really enlightening. So I sit in a unique position. On one side, I'm helping to shape policy. On another side, I'm helping with the incentives. And right down the middle, I run a microgrid company. So prior to my current company, Instant On, I helped start a company called DR Microgrids, which was one of the top microgrid integrators in California in 2019. The basis behind DR Microgrids was DR stands for Demand Response Microgrids. And I wrote 3 patents on how to respond to demand response using microgrids. So it was unique. And, traditional demand response is curtailment or shut off equipment to whenever the grid is being utilized too much. What we do is with our microgrid, we actually take the microgrid and island the entire building. So that right there was a unique way to respond to demand response, and it brought much more benefits. And Instant On was started because we wanted to be able to be more of an integrator of these various solutions, because what we saw is in the microgrid world, interoperability, the ability for each one of these widgets or equipment or technologies to interact with each other, that was the biggest challenge. So you may have solar that works or battery that works or controls that work by itself. But the moment you bring it together, number one, it may not work. Number two, there's a lot of finger pointing, because the battery guy says, my stuff works. Look, I got permits. Solar says, my stuff works. See, I got permits. It's their fault, right? So what we did was, as an integrator, we're saying, let us bring all the best technologies together for the customer and make sure they work first. And then as they work together, then we can go ahead and start not just creating good and more efficient microgrids for the customer, but we create a platform that can be deployed at a much more rapid pace, right? I mean, that whole idea that you see one microgrid, you've seen one microgrid, it's garbage. You can't get a business to grow if everything is customized. So that's where we've come in. So as you can see, my passion behind microgrids and energy, I mean, the reality is I'm a Hawaiian. I was born and raised in the middle of the Pacific, 2,500 miles away from the nearest landmass. In Hawaii, our native tongue does not have a natural word for sustainability. Why? Because for us, that's life. You take care of the land, you take care of the people, you take care of everything around it, it takes care of you. So we didn't have to figure out sustainability. We didn't have to figure out resiliency. That's just a part of your life. So for me to step into this world, it's a part of my DNA in ways that people just cannot understand. So that's who I am.
Wow. AJ, that's an amazing introduction. And I love the Hawaii bit about not having the word sustainable in your language, because you are sustainable. That is, wow. So let's try and take some steps back there. So your curtailment regarding, there's something, it's funny, in year 2000, I was working with Invensys and we looked at curtailment, and that was something that was being developed in the States. And it was very simply, we were going to have like a team going around connecting the heating system, the air conditioning system, the TV and everything, and it was going to curtail the plant and the building as and when the demand required it in the buildings. But that is far long time ago regarding, we've moved on radically because we've now got equipment that we can't control, we can't turn off, like the lights of solar, the lights of wind. It's very hard for us to manage that. All we can do is just flick the switch, and you've got all that resource that's going to be wasted. How does all that come together? How's that whole story start? What's the science behind all of that story?
So I think, the thing for us is, when we look at demand response, it's disruptive. And I don't mean that in a good way, right? I mean, it's disruptive in it is that it disrupts my life. So the way that it works is, in the middle of summer when it's 110 degrees and everybody's AC is on, the grid cannot handle all of that energy pull. So they go ahead and reach out to certain customers and say, hey, we need your help. Can you shut off equipment? Well, the problem is the equipment they want me to shut off is my air conditioner.
Yeah.
I'm fat. I need my AC on. Don't shut off my AC when it's 110 degrees. Shut off my coffee machine, right? So that right there becomes the challenge. It disrupts operations. So people opt out of it. So you get two losers, the customer and the utility. Yeah. What we do is we actually take the microgrid and island the entire building. To me, that's the way to do it, is when I island the building or loads of the building can continue. Two things happen. When I island the entire building, number one, the customer gets the maximum revenue based on me removing the entire load. Number two, no disruption, if any. Right? I mean, I bring little disruption because I'm using the microgrid to fulfill the normal operations of that building. And number three, the most important part is the utility gets the maximum benefit of the load that I can shed into the grid. So that's what we need to do, is we need to use all of the advanced technologies that we have available, AI, the ability to do all of these curtailments in a way that is really interesting. We've got a panel that we use, our IO hub, our microgrid controller, and what it does is actually it prioritizes all of the loads on the circuit panel. So if we call an event to reduce load by 10%, it'll actually shut off the loads, the non-essential loads, in order of, things that we don't need, so that once it achieves 10% reduction, that's it. So I may be able to get the full reduction amount, the 10% reduction, without even impacting my life. And these are the types of technologies and opportunities we need to look at. It's there.
And what sort of examples of the non-essentials? As you said, that your coffee machine, maybe your fridge, or do you fine tune the air conditioning? So maybe you increase it by half a degree or a degree. Is it?
So we could. Yeah. Absolutely, we could. But I mean, let's take a house. A house is like something really small that we can look at, right? In my home, if the power shuts off, I wish that there were certain things that didn't shut off, like these lights, this plug, my refrigerator, my freezer, if I've got one, my garage door opener. But those are 5 things out of this whole home of opportunities here. That would be my essential loads, right? Now, my neighbor's essential loads may be different. So that's a whole scenario. But the idea is, how can I go ahead and look at my circuit panel, the 20 circuits that are on there, and say, of these circuit panels, which one do I need to keep on? Hence my essential loads. Oh, so again, it varies for everybody. But if you think about it, there's technologies now, in the old days, our circuit panels are, you just use one at a time and you break them, you have to go in and flip the switch. I've got my circuit panel that's fully digital. Yeah. I literally can take my cell phone and go ahead and turn on and off circuits in my home. That's available right now. And it's not like it's only one product. So imagine being able to do that, taking your phone and say, this is essential, this is non-essential. And then now you've got that capability. It becomes customer centric, right?
Yeah. My house, I've got a package called Lightwave, and my house is controlled, all my lighting, all from an app. Yeah.
Correct.
And I save 90% of my energy just by managing through smartphone all my energy. I used to drive past my house and go, I've left the lights on the front, my porch lights. Well, now they're controlled through dusk and dawn. It goes dark, the lights come on. It goes light, the lights go off. So, and silly things like that. And if we micro manage our properties individually, it's amazing what savings you can make. And
Absolutely.
I can see what you're doing there with this curtailment on that. So the supplier just so it sends a signal out, and whatever non-essentials you've got allocated shuts down.
Absolutely. And I mean, the utilities can do it from their scale. That's the thing that's beautiful. If you've got the right equipment, I mean, when we put our IO hub into an entire community, right? So we've got a project that we are building nanogrids on 1 million homes for U.S. veterans. So when we talk about connected community, that's what we're doing. So imagine being able to give the utility the ability to send a signal to 1 million smart meters to say, we need help, shut off your load 5%. And if you'd like, you can opt in to do another 5%. So, I mean, 5% of load shedding on a home, that's like next to nothing. Nobody would even feel that. But for the people that are to be able to know, wow, I just earned $7 by letting them shut off 5% of loads I didn't even know, I'm going to give them 10%.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like now it becomes customer centric. I'm part of the solution. Right now, we get a bill from the utility company that says $500 a month. What the heck is that attributed to?
Yeah. There's
no transparency. There's no customer involvement. It's just keep taking it, keep getting beat up by the utility. And that's not fair. That's all I'm saying, is there's a better way for everybody to work together.
Yeah. And can we extend this into the commercial world?
Oh, absolutely. That's where this stuff goes. When we look at the residential, it's stuff that we know, right? If all we did was talk about the big commercial buildings and all this stuff, I mean, I'll be honest, the people in my neighborhood don't give a rip about what happens at ABC company over there. They care about what happens in their house or their community. But everything that we do in this small little home, can you imagine what it does when we start going into a small to mid-sized business? into a big industrial factory, into an industrial park, right? I mean, everything is scalable. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
And then, imagine a big commercial tower. You could start controlling their non-essentials.
Absolutely. I mean, and they've been doing that for quite some time, so that's the beautiful part, is that none of this stuff is new. No. It's not new. It's just being more understanding of, we got to do this. We have to do this. I mean, I've got properties that I see that, that we work on. Literally, the owners are able to run their entire business from their homes because they've had to, right? It just, necessity is the father of innovation. And that's where they're looking at, say, I'm stuck. I can't run my stuff from home. And now through COVID, it's forced them to be able to do that. So there's a lot of businesses that we work with that are able to do these capabilities in not just a remote way, but a more intelligent and efficient way.
Is there any indication on the amount of kilowatt hour savings that you're making or can make with your systems that you're talking about here?
So for us, we build microgrids differently. And the biggest reason is we're an aggregator, similar to C-Power and Enernoc, where they aggregate power for the utility. We're not just a microgrid integrator. We don't just go out there and build microgrids. Because we are also a microgrid integrator and aggregator, we look at how we build the microgrids differently. A traditional microgrid company will go ahead and say, when you look at that big curve, right, this is the expensive power, demand charges, peak use and all that stuff. So that's where most companies look to do the peak shaving and take away all of that expensive power because it makes financial sense. Well, guess what? I'm not that sensible of a guy, so I look to build my microgrid to take all of it. Now, I'm not trying to take the customer away from the utility. I'm trying to give the customer resiliency. And that's the difference. Is my number one charge is to protect families, communities, and businesses.
Yeah.
The way I do that is building microgrids. So if I take all of the power and give you the ability, if the power shuts off, I give you the ability to just keep running nonstop for as long as you need to. Now, what happens is you have peace of mind knowing, God forbid anything happens out there, my business, my family, my community is protected because I've got the energy that I need. Now, when I don't need that energy, what do I do with it? It's like a generator. If I got a generator to protect my family, it's great, but I really hope I don't have to use it. But if I'm not using it, it sits. On the other hand, my microgrid, when I'm not using it, I'm selling it. I'm selling that power to the grid and I'm creating a revenue stream for the customer. That's the huge difference.
One question I wanted to know here. So are you agnostic to the supplier of that energy? Can you wholesale it out? You're smiling. So that's, yes, you are agnostic. Yeah.
It's funny when I first came into the industry and somebody say agnostic to me. A person that was near me said, why are we talking about religion? I had no idea that agnostic went down a different path, right?
Yeah.
And as soon as I understood what it meant, it's become a part of my terminology a lot because all of us need to be technology agnostic, contractor agnostic, supply agnostic. We need to be able to pick and choose the right technology, the right company, the right integrator, the right contractor that's appropriate for the solution for the customer. And that's where we as Instant On have come in to say, we know all the technologies that are out there. Our job is to test them all together because that customer is going to need something that all of these things may not be able to provide. So our ability to integrate, originally we started off building microgrids using solar, batteries, controls. Now we do solar, CHP, natural gas generators, hydrogen CHP, fuel cells. I mean, you name it, we're integrating it. We are testing this stuff, playing with this stuff. We don't care. We've got 5 battery companies. We've got 3 controls. In our opinion, you bring them all. Come one, come all. We need as much help as we can get because there's too many families that need protection. There's too many communities and businesses.
We've got this microgrid. obviously there's an investment in place here. You know, we can't just suddenly create a microgrid for a village or a town here. Firstly, who finances the systems, and is there a return on investment? Is there a way that there is going to be a return on investment for an organization who's going to invest in that, or who invests in it?
Really, really good question. So when I first got involved, even till now, you can find financiers that can finance solar all day long. I mean, that's easy. Try to find a financier that can finance solar and batteries. They're still trying to figure it out. The reality is they're still trying to figure that stuff out. I mean, most of these guys will just increase the price of solar so that they can go ahead and get the battery sold. It's ridiculous. Yeah. You try to have them monetize and finance a microgrid, there's only a few companies that have been able to really figure that out. I mean, Jigger Shaw, Jigger is the one who got me involved with microgrids.
Right.
It was Jigger who called me back in 2018 and said, AJ, I need your help building microgrids. And it was Jigger that launched me into this microgrid space. He's figured it out. His company that he used to run, Generate Capital, they know how to do this all day long. So there's a few companies that figured it out, but they're still trying to understand all the nuances. So what we've done is we've partnered with Schneider Electric Green Structure, where they come in and do energy as a service, where we can go to commercial and industrial customers and offer them a microgrid with no capex. We pay for it all. We also do all operations and maintenance, so it's no capex and no risk. And on top of that, so you get a microgrid, you get resiliency, you get a savings between 5 and 15% on utility costs, and you get a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. All financed and run by Schneider Electric Green Structure, one of the 900-pound gorillas in the industry. So that was huge for us. Recently, we started being asked to come into this utility space where we're building much larger projects. So our most recent project is a 3 gigawatt project for the city of California City. But what we're doing is we're taking this a step further by creating infrastructure as a service. So we're bringing in energy and telecom. It just makes sense. If you're a city that's at the end of the power lines, guess what? You don't have enough power. And in this particular case, the utility is saying, I'm sorry, we're not going to give you the power you need to grow your city until 2030, until 2050. So they have a capacity issue at that city. But if you're at the end of the power lines, you're probably at the end of the telecom lines too. So by us bringing this together, there's one thing that really started to click for me. If I open up the ground and lay my 4-inch pipe for energy and simultaneously invite the guy from telecom to lay his 2-inch pipe at the same time, I reduce their cost 40 to 80% just by inviting my friend. It's ridiculous, right? Yeah. So that right there allows me to bring a nice package solution. Now, back to the financing question that you were asking about. The financiers that would have financed my energy project were all in because they've got a great client. But when I told them about bringing telecom simultaneously, they said, AJ, I'd much rather finance that than the first. And I said, why is that? They said, because if I pay for all of these assets around the city, communication for me to know what's going on with all of those assets is critical. If they don't have the right communication protocols, we lose sight on our assets. But if we know we're laying fiber, so we've got the highest level of communication between our assets, it ensures our investment and it makes the entire project for the customer better. I was like, that's it. Can I add something else? So we have another project that we're doing in the US that encompasses a large multi-county co-op. And now we're bringing in energy, telecom, and water resiliency. So we're not trying to replace the utilities. We love the utilities. We like what they do. We just want to help them. I mean, we all know the infrastructure for utilities, whether it be water or power, is old and antiquated and needs to be upgraded. Well, while they do that, we'll supplement and we'll back them up on this side. So when we bring in water, now we're bringing atmospheric water generators that make water out of air. So now we're giving the customers more benefits. And again, it's all about resiliency. Imagine giving them energy resiliency and water resiliency. That right there, the financiers see the benefit for the people as well as all of those involved.
So you've actually just described a model which is win-win for everybody: the financiers, the banks, all the utility suppliers, and more importantly, the end user is going to be.
It has to be. We have to work together. I mean, come on. In Hawaii, you're on an island. You cannot hate the neighbor. What's wrong with you? You know, like, why does it have to be a win-lose scenario? It's absolutely asinine to think that there has to be a winner and a loser. I think that there's a place for every person, every company. We're a microgrid integrator. We want to be the best, but we don't need to be the biggest or the only. We want to be able to have everybody come together. Come, let me teach you what we're doing and you teach us. That's the way for us to create a better world.
I like the way you said, I asked my friend if he wanted to put his pipe in this along with our pipe. I love it. I love it.
It's not my company. You know what I mean? Like, even with this big project, this is the one thing people don't realize. We secured the contract for this 3 gigawatt project, but we didn't actually win it. It was our friends that won it. And they said, AJ, we need help. So now we're helping our friends. So technically it will be ours. But when we start building this, there's 2 things to consider. There's no one company in the world that can supply 3 gigawatts of power. There just isn't. No. Not for one project, right? So I'm going to need to bring all manufacturers into this project to say, please come help. There's no one contractor that could or should work on that project. So guess what? Same thing. Guys, come in. Yeah. This right now is a call to arms saying, guys, please come and help us.
So, Ajay, really excited about what you're doing. So, whereabouts is this? Is this predominantly in California, or can you take this model that you've developed and wrap this around the world? Can you do this everywhere or anywhere?
So, I'm from Hawaii. I've been in California for about 4 or 5 years. And because this is my home now, it's easier for me to touch. And California allows me to be able to play with things. I've got resources here. But it's always been my dream to take this back to my people. And when I say my people, I mean the island nations around the world, because islands are affected in ways that no other, geographical location can understand, right? I mean, if a storm comes through Hawaii, it's days, if not weeks, before we get help from a boat, right? So the other thing that's really interesting is that if you do an upgrade to an island, you can see the effects, good or bad, that have happened. Whereas if I do an upgrade to a city here in California, there's so many variables that could have changed the results of that, right? So that's one thing. But so back to what you were asking is, we're doing this in California. Our next project is in central United States. It's huge. I mean, you're talking 1,000 times bigger than this city that we're doing in California. This has 4,400 residents. Our other project is 4.4 million residents. So we've got multiple U.S. projects that are coming into this scope. But we've been asked. I sit as an island ambassador for Island Innovations, and I'm one of 1,200 representatives of islands around the world that gather often to talk about the issues, challenges, and opportunities that we as islanders have. And I've kind of risen to the point where I'm one of the energy guys that talk about this. So the solutions that we're creating are obviously hugely more beneficial to an island that has power that's twice as expensive as most of the continental US, that has more issues for water needs and energy needs and all this stuff. So everything that we do is, I'm always thinking, how can I build this in the best, most efficient way so I can bring it back to my people?
Yeah. AJ, can I make you smile?
All the time.
I live on an island. Did you know that?
I love it. I love it.
I live on an island next to obviously Great Britain, because I live in a place called Canby Island. So with this island is below sea level. We're in the Thames. We've got 2 roads on and off. So maybe you should come one day and survey and see if we can put some microgrid on it. We've been
I
on the
love it.
mainland as such.
I love
Yeah,
it.
I live on an island, so I thought I'd just throw that in just for a bit of humour, really. So,
My fellow islander here.
yeah, that's why we get on so well. AJ, look, it's really great listening to the story, and I'm really looking forward to hear more about this as it evolves. But is there something, I like to always put my guests on the spot, and I like to always ask, is there something that you can give back to our industry regarding your knowledge and your experience to share with other experts around the world?
I think for me, because I'm not from the industry and because I'm not afraid to ask questions, that has propelled me to a position that is able to gain more insight because I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to say, I never knew about that. I never understood that. Can you help me understand that? So one of the gifts that I feel that I've been given was the ability to take complex things and simplify it so that everybody understands this, because I'm a simple man. I come from Hawaii. As an islander, everything is just kick back, relax, how's it, and stuff like that. So how do I bridge the gap between the complex things that are necessary to build the infrastructure that we're looking for, but how do we help it to be in such a way that my grandmother, that my children can understand not just how to use it, but the importance of it? And one of the things that I would encourage every single one of us in this industry to do is start simplifying it. More than anything else, I cannot tell you about all the complexities within the industry that need to be conveyed to the people that we serve. But the one thing that I know that is absolutely critical is for people to get it. And when they get it, that's where we get mass mobilization. That's where we get a whole bunch of people that start sitting there saying, that is wrong. And I'm stepping up to make sure that everybody knows that that is wrong, or that is what I want. I'm going to make sure everybody knows. So if we want to get all of the support, we got to start simplifying it. Help us understand. And when I say us, it's because I'm one of those people. I'm one of those guys that sit in this position that says, wow, you're so smart. I just don't understand what you said. So if there's anything that I can do at all to try to help our industry, it's really to help everybody say, help us understand. Give us understanding, give us the ability to really connect the dots on what we have today, what is potential, and the pathway towards the vision that we all infuse. I mean, we want it. We want that. Give us that pathway.
Yeah. And that's the sad thing about our industry, AJ. It's just complex and confusing. Just the way they simply do the billing, for the common man to get his electricity bill come through every day and understand what that is. I'm constantly speaking to people that are being overcharged. They don't understand what they're paying for. They put, I've got a smart meter in, but why my bill's still overestimated? It's things like that. We do need to simplify it. And I really get and understand what you're saying there. It's a really good point.
Yeah.
AJ, it's been, this is the first interview I've done, and I haven't said a lot, but I've said wow a lot. Because the story you've just come through is just an amazing story, and I wish you every success with that. And I'm really excited about you expanding that across the world, especially when you come to my island as well to do that. So
this was definitely enjoyable. I've been waiting to be able to interact with you, Paul. I see all the great things you're doing. Congratulations, and keep up the great work. As I depart, I'd like to leave our state motto in the islands for Hawaii is Ua Mauke'ea o Ka'ainai Kapono. What that means is the life of the land is perpetuated in righteousness. I truly believe that as each and every one of us individually and collectively move forward with righteousness, with looking always to do the right things, it makes me excited for the future to come. And to me, what you're doing, bringing all of these experts together, this is the path. This is the ability to bring all the goodness of what we need to start creating that future that we know is right down there, right there.
Brilliant.
Thanks, Paul.
No, thank you. And AJ, please be safe, you and your family, and we will speak soon. Thank you for coming.
Take care, brother. Aloha.
Thank you for our special guest today, and thank you for our sponsors, B2B Energy, which can be found at b2benergy.co.uk, and Clean Energy Revolution, which can also be found either through various different social media networks. Type in hashtag Clean Energy Revolution. That leaves me with one more thing to say. Be safe.